Tatsikiisaapo'p. Greetings to you all. Welcome to another episode of meskanâs, kâpimâcimohk, walking and talking together. I'm here with my, I was going to say old friend, I won't say that, my beautiful friend Ramona Big Head here in Lethbridge. Ramona and I, we probably first met 1995, 1996 at Kainai High School, and then she taught English, I taught social studies, and we had lots of fun together. So welcome to this episode, Ramona.
Thank you.
Okay, let's get walking. I'll put this thing on. Where do you want to go? Which way?
Let's go this way. We could go like towards the back there.
Okay.
This is where they do the moonlight run. So I've ran this area like with grandkids. And so you start up there, you come down the hill, and you go and you turn around and go back up.
Down, yeah. And there's usually a pretty strong wind blowing from what I remember, because I ran that a couple times too.
Yeah, well by then it's like, sometimes it's like really nice. I ran it in like, when it was just little light, wet snow coming down, and it was beautiful.
So can you tell everybody who you are?
Okay, Akaistsiiskaakii. My Blackfoot name is translated as Many Sweat Lodge Woman. I am a Ganatki, Kainai woman, which is part of the Blackfoot Confederacy. I am a mother and a grandmother and a great-grandmother. I am also an educator. And I'm currently, I spent like 14 years in a classroom teaching high school English and drama. And then I went on to get a master's degree and researched and wrote a play about the 1870 Baker Massacre or Bear River Massacre. And now I'm and then I spent some time in administration, school administration, from a vice principal to a principal, from elementary, middle school, high school, and now I'm Assistant Superintendent with Peigan Board of Education. And yeah.
Beautiful. So where are we here? There's a fort over there. Can you tell everybody what's up here?
Okay, well, this is a replica of Fort Hoopap. The original fort is probably, if you follow the river, you go on to the reserve, the blood reserve side, which is south of here. Yeah, and you follow it. And the original site, actually when I was in my undergrad, I was working with this professor in the geology or whatever department, and it was a summer job, so we were doing a dig. She was trying to find the original Fort Hoopap. And so we would go out there, and she was showing us how to make a square and dig, and we were digging up all kinds of stuff like bullets, even buttons from like those cavalry or whatever. No, not the U.S., but the soldiers.
Yeah.
And one day I was sitting there really hot. It's about 4 or 5 of us. Everybody's in their own little spot, and I was at my dig site. And I was kind of brushing away, and I started seeing the ground started turning a different color, and I kept sweeping it, and it was a perfect circle. So I called her over, and she was so excited. She needed to find that one spot, and from there she was able to calculate the dimensions of that fort.
Oh.
And so then that was the part of our job that we had to come to the U of L, and one of those basement classrooms. We had to start cataloging all the stuff we dug out of that place. So that's how I knew the original fort was over there.
So what was that thing you uncovered?
It was a corner post
of
the original fort.
Holy.
Yeah.
Did you
So
get
that's
reward
my-
money for that?
That's my claim to fame, but no, I don't think she ever mentioned me in her when she did her research.
You didn't get cited?
I was just an undergrad, just trying to make some money.
Okay, and we're also here in the Old Man River Valley in Lethbridge, and they call this place Indian Battle Park. What do you know about that?
Well, you want the Blackfoot version or the Cree version? No, see, that when that battle took place was September 1870.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that January 1870 was the Baker Massacre. So, it was not a good time for the Cree to come and wage war on the Blackfoot because they were still reeling, and see, they hadn't been able to fight back when that battle along the Bear River or the Marias River, Baker and his troops, when they came in, the warriors, a lot of them came north. They didn't have so they weren't able to fight. So then, I don't know, this is my thinking, they were still in mourning. Was Sundance was going on or just finishing up? Usually that August, September is when we have our sacred Sundance ceremony. And the Cree attacked. And so then the warriors came, Blackfoot warriors came along and pretty much killed most of them. And a few a few of the Cree managed to escape. But the other side of the story I heard was when the Cree were coming, one of them had a dream and was told, "Don't go. It's not going to turn out good for you." And so he decided he was telling the other leaders of this war party, and some went back with him, but some were probably really stubborn and wanted to do this. So they came out here and then didn't turn out good. That's the other side of the story, right?
Yeah.
But I think it was because the rage and all that everything kind of falls into, when you think about it, how one thing affects the other in our history, and I really think that's why they fought so hard. They took it out on them, because that massacre was horrific.
Yeah. We're probably going to have to revisit that story of Baker Massacre, so everybody knows what we're talking about. But right now, what I wanted to share is that, I guess all the different things I've done in this work, I found myself more and more thinking back of those 10 years I spent at Kainai High School, a lot of times working with you and all the different things I learned. And in working with you those years, one of the things I always admired about you was your ability to, I wouldn't say, your ability to communicate with the students in pretty unique ways.
Hello.
Hi. Apart from being just a really good teacher, I always paid attention when you were communicating. You had a very unique style for doing that. And where do you think that came from? That skill you had? Because I know you're aware of it. It's like one of your gifts.
Well, I think part of it is I was a little bit older I started teaching. It wasn't like right now there's teachers are walking into their first classroom at 22, 23.
Oh yeah.
I was 30. Plus I already had 7 kids. So really I started being an adult really early in life. I was only 15 when I had my oldest son, and so I think a big part of that is maturity, and also it's really nice to have started my career in my own community, So there'd be certain things that I could get away with in saying, whereas if I was someone that was not from the community, they'd probably really get into trouble if they said some of the things I said, you know. Because, you know, like, I remember one boy, you know, he was acting up, and I got after him. I said, hey, cut it out. Your grandpa is my Uncle Melvin. He's one of my favorite uncles. I'm going to tell on you. I'm going to go tell Uncle Melvin what you're doing. You better cut it out. And I'll tell him to come to school. You know he will. You know he's going to come to the school, and he'll sit with you all day. You know, like, and that boy said, oh, no, don't call my grandpa, you know.
Yeah.
And I think just always being, I think a big part too is like being so blunt. And my mother was like that, you know, she didn't give a shit. She'll just say what she's going to say. And, you know, and so I think a lot of that too was like my daughters always used to say, geez, Mom, no filter. I'll be saying things, and, you know, I think that's a part of it too. But yeah, and just being able to situate myself, like, who am I in relation to these kids? Or who am I in relation to the community? Who am I, you know? And because I was pretty confident in myself, because I was from the community, then I was able to say things that probably, you know, others couldn't.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, I always noticed that, how the students responded to you. It's good lessons for me. But the other thing I wanted to bring up is like your willingness to experiment. You know, I think teaching, you know, it can go a certain way. You can get the job done, but a lot of times there's opportunities to try different things. And oh, sorry.
Oh my God.
Almost got run over.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't warn you.
I thought she was on this side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, what was that?
Yeah, I know your willingness to experiment with different things and not being afraid. And of course, we had what we called the Elder Mentor program, where we tinkered with things. But I always remember being present when you started the drama program at Kainai High School. And so I just wanted to give you a chance to talk about that and what was like what was going on with you when you started experimenting with that, and how has it grown since then?
Well, I think that kind of early on, I guess in my life or growing up, I never knew how not to do something. You know, like, I never knew that you couldn't do this or whatever. Like, it was just, maybe it was never communicated or I never listened. So I just would do things that, you know, that I felt like I wanted to. And with the drama program, I wasn't really thinking about big picture, or, you know, I wasn't really thinking about, you know, like I wasn't really aware or even really thought about what I was doing. I was just doing it, you know, and only in retrospect do I see how, wow, that was pretty amazing, or, you know, wow, I was able to do this with the students, you know. So at Kainai, before I got there, they were always like a real, it was like a real, I don't know, like shaming in high school, you know, kids who excelled, over-excelled, or did really well in school, the others would shame them, you know, or make fun of them for excelling. And so that kind of became the norm, you know. So then these ones that were excelling, they'd feel bad or they'd feel embarrassed, so then they don't want to try hard or outshine the rest, eh? And so by the time I came on, it was really hard to get kids on stage. Same thing, because of that attitude that they had. And you know, of course, out there, the ones that really shined were the basketball players and the cross-country runners and so on, the athletes. And so when I staged it, the first pick I had was a basketball star, and he backed out. So then I just went home and saw my son sitting there and, staring at him, thinking. And then he finally realized I was staring at him, and he's like, "What? What are you looking at me like that for?" And I started crying, really being sad. "Oh, Carl, I know you could do this. I wouldn't ask you if I didn't think you could." And the whole time, Jimmy, the star athlete, sitting there just chuckling, laughing at Carl. And Carl says, "I'll do it if he does it." And I said, "Jimmy." And Jimmy's like, "Ah." He's like, "Geez." And he said, "Okay, I'll do it if you just cover me with a mask." I said, "All right, yeah, we'll do it." And then Galena comes out of nowhere. "Well, if they get to be in your play, I get to be in your play." I'm like, "All right, okay, let's go, let's do this." So, and then it, it kind of morphed, after that. People saw what we did, and I was fortunate enough at the time we had Delia Crosschild, who did the set designs, and Mavis Smith, who was, both of them were excellent seamstresses and did the costumes, stuff that I couldn't do. And then, it was like really successful, and the community was just waiting for something. It's almost like they were so ready for it. And so we ended up having some really good shows, and invited to go perform different places. And I remember going up to Tatsikiisaapo'p. They had a brand new theater, beautiful stage, everything, and went up into their sound booth. Like, we didn't have anything nearly as good as that, but we got up to their sound booth. All of their sound equipment was still in boxes. They hadn't even opened them up, and they'd been sitting there for a couple years. So we just had a sound guy, and he just plugged everything in, and oh my God, it was really awesome. So anyway, I thought that time, I seriously thought about transferring if I can get a job in Tatsikiisaapo'p.
Oh yeah,
because of that stage.
The setup.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But yeah, and then then things, pretty soon it started being okay to be on stage at Kainai, and then it got to the point, by the time Jesse was in high school, 5 years later, I had the basketball players begging me to wait until after the playoffs before I started my next, spring production. So depended on how good the team was, it could be a long wait, or they weren't that great, we're out, one of the first ones out, then could get started. But then pretty soon it started being where there were more boys than girls taking drama classes. And a lot of them went on, like Carl was one of them, and Cherish Blood, Justin Many Fingers, they went on and pursued it, hey? So yeah. But it was, and the thing too about theater is that I didn't even know that it was going to be a big part of my life. I remember the very first time we entered at the Southern Alberta High School Drama Festival in Lethbridge. Anyways, we went there, and we didn't even know the theater etiquette, hey? They were cheering on they gave honorable mention to this one actor, and everybody stood up. And us guys, we just sat there clapping. And I remember the adjudicator looking at us really disgusted, eh? Like we were being disrespectful because we didn't stand up. And it was only because I didn't know the etiquette. I didn't know that's what you were supposed to do, to give them a standing ovation. Like I didn't even know stuff like that. And I didn't even know the terminology, like strike the set. I'm like, what do you mean? It means take it apart, whatever. But there's so much I didn't know. I learned it's like really literally learning on the job.
Yeah.
And yeah, so, and now, it really ended up becoming a huge part of my life, and it ended up being one of those things that I came to love, and now I sit on various theater, like boards, advisory boards, and stuff like that across the province. And yeah, now I'm an expert.
Well, and you went on and you wrote a master's thesis called Strike Them Hard. So can you tell folks about all that?
Okay, well, that kind of came out of when late Narcissus came out and helped us with that elder mentor program. And we went to one of the site visits was the Baker Massacre site. Oh, by the way, I'm taking our staff there on Friday.
Oh, nice.
We're going there. And so we go out there on the bus ride, you know, it's like a couple hours to get there. Narcissus starts telling me the story. And I was listening to him, and then he said one of our grandmothers was a survivor. I was like, what? Then her name was Tatsikiisaapo'p, Holy Bear Woman. And so that would have been my great-great-grandmother. So I'm 5 generations after from her, and on my dad's side. Narcissus is probably 1 generation ahead of me, 4 generations, so been his great-grandmother. And yeah, and she was a survivor, and so I started doing the research on it and working with Dr. Cynthia Chambers, who was my supervisor at the U of L, and started working on that and wrote a play about it. And so the research that went into it, I was able to look at like newspaper articles like the Great Falls like Gazette or whatever it was called, like way back then.
In the 1870s.
Yeah, Great Falls Tribune. I don't know what their newspaper was. And then there was other theses that were written on it, and there was like a book, you know. But all those books and stuff that were written by non-Indigenous people always made it like they justified the army. You know, the army were justified in what they did, and it was really kind of from that perspective, and no one ever really asked, well, what about the people that were killed and their families? So people like Carol Murray from Blackfoot Community College, at the time she was there, and she started learning about it in the 70s, and so she started her research. So me being introduced to it through Narcissus and hearing the story, this is like around 2000, maybe 2004, 2005, going out there, and I just remember I just wanted to write a play about it. And then I started my master's program and found out that I could write a play. And so a lot of the research I did was based on the oral stories that Carol had collected over the years, a lot of what Narcissus had shared, and then, like I said, some of those written works, and like newspaper articles and books, and I forget that guy's name. He wrote his thesis on it. So anyway, so I was able to gather enough information. Now, today, these same people, Carol Murray, Leah Whitford, and myself, are collaborating. They're putting together a book from the descendants. So, my role in that was to gather some of my relatives that were part of Holy Bear Woman's, like her children, grandchildren, and so on. So, and when you think about it, Tatsikiisaapo'p, Holy Bear Woman, she really, her children, her grandchildren, they were leaders, like chiefs, leaders of the Horn Society, you know, just leaders. If you look at all the prominent Kainai people, including our current chief, Roy Fox, is a descendant. Late Joyce Goodstriker is a descendant. She was the one who was really prominent in getting control of our education. So many of us, Wilton Goodstriker, who was leader of the Horn Society.
Yeah.
So a lot of these people were leaders in what we do, hey? Heck, we just had one of our relatives at the Olympics.
Yeah.
Apollo Hess. He's a fox. His grandfather is a fox, and he's one of the descendants. Like, when you really think about it, Holy Bear Woman had a lot of I don't know, like, I guess lots to be proud of.
Yeah, her descendants.
Yeah.
For those of you listening, if you look up Ramona's master's thesis, Ramona Big Head, Strike Them Hard, at the University of Lethbridge, you can check it out. But what you didn't mention is that it was performed off Broadway in New York City, which I think is so awesome.
Yeah, we kind of had auditions, eh? And these little kids are auditioning with like no front teeth. And they're just like, when they're dancing and staring at you, eye contact, or just looking into your eyes, like. So I went back to our committee. I said, how am I going to tell a little 5-year or 7-year-old kid, oh, you didn't make the... We're just going to take them all. You know, I don't know where we're going to get the money, but we'll figure it out later.
And you did.
And we did. Yeah, we got them there, and we're performed about 3 blocks from Broadway, so I always tell them, you guys are Broadway performers. Those awesome. Of you that were there.
So great.
Yeah, and it was like a, what do you call it? Like a gathering of performers from around the world, like from Brazil, wherever. And we were just one, it was called Performing the World. So they all gathered at this place. We were one of I don't know how many different productions from across the world. And yeah, and we were one of them. That was pretty cool.
So part of what's going on with these walk talks is to kind of talk about our relationships to colonialism. And kind of what I've been telling people is we've all had an experience, we've all been influenced by colonialism, but we don't experience it the same because we're all different people. It affects us differently. But what I'm interested in with this work is how, what we can do to recover from that. And so I know you're a doctoral student at UBC, and your work has to do with the strength that drama, that kind of work can give to communities to heal. So I just wanted to give you a chance to talk about that, how you understand that right now. I know you got work to do with that, but...
Yeah. Well, I think that I really believe that identity is really important, because once I came to know more about who I am as a Kainai Blackfoot woman who is still fortunate enough to still be very fluent in our language, I have a very strong sense of self, and it's pretty hard to shake. And there's times I know I can get a little bit I don't know what the word is. I can be intimidating to others if I feel like they're kind of overstepping. Like, so just I'll give you an example. On the weekend, I was one of the panelists at this was called Freedom of Religion Symposium in Lethbridge.
Okay.
And so my role was, there was this lawyer from Texas, and he was talking about all the cases that he worked at where he was defending freedom of religion. And anyway, he said, when he was doing that, he was talking, and my role was to be on the panel and kind of give my response.
Yeah.
Basically, I just told him, yeah, I really admire you for all those court cases you did and freedom of religion. I really agree with you, but none of those apply to us. We didn't have a choice. So kind of went from there, hey. But anyway, but during lunch, there was this older white lady. Like, I didn't know anybody. I just walked in. Is anybody sitting here? No, go ahead. This lady from Lethbridge. And there was this other girl. She's Anishinaabe. She's real friendly. She came and sat down, and she just moved here. She, thinks Lethbridge is a real nice place, which it is. And anyway, this newcomer, Anishinaabe girl, was asking, I'd really like to get more involved with the Indigenous people, and what's happening for truth and reconciliation in the city, kind of thing. And then this white lady looks up and says, well, Ramona can tell you everything that's going on at Streets Alive. And Streets Alive is that homeless place for homeless people. I just looked at her and very quietly but sternly told her, I know nothing about Streets Alive. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so she was just like, oh, I'm sorry, like just because I'm sitting there and I'm supposed to know what's happening at Streets Alive when I've never been in there, never been homeless, and anyway, she just ticked me off. It's like, so I guess there's times when, and then, then I also know, pick your battles, right? That wasn't the place for me to start going off on her, and I didn't. But it's kind of stayed with me, it kind of bothered me, and which is obviously I'm still talking about it 2-3 days later. But but knowing who I am, I don't have to go off on you. Like you don't know who I am, and maybe you don't even know who you are. I don't know, but don't make those assumptions about who I am. So when I got to know who I am, getting back to my identity, it gave me that strength. And knowing that I come from someone like Tatsikiisaapo'p, just finished saying who her descendants, how powerful and great leaders, are my relatives, then, it gives me that sense of self-worth. And so I really believe that the more we teach our children who they are, their stories, their histories, their language, their connection to place, I think that really could make a difference. And so when I'm thinking about theater and the work that I would like to do with my PhD is that, with that dissertation, is I wanted to look at the correlation between Indigenous theater and identity. But before I could even talk about identity, I had to give I had to have some kind of a measuring stick. I had to have a bit of a working definition of what is identity among Blackfoot youth, or more specifically Kainai, these young people who are working on stage or anything. So I used Akaistsiiskaakii, which is my grandmother called it our constitution. Dr. Leroy Littlebear talked about it. He was one of the writers of it. He said that the Akaistsiiskaakii, which is Kainai ways of knowing, he said that document, it tells the outside world who we are. But in this time, in this day and age, when a lot of our people we're not taught or don't know who we are, it also is an internal document to remind us internally who we are. And so using that as my measuring stick, now I'm able to turn back and look at some of the questions I asked these young people who are involved in theater. 2 have passed away, Carl and Troy Twig. And so I asked them questions like, does being Blackfoot influence what you put on stage? And, or vice versa? Does being on stage make you want to be more Blackfoot, and ask them questions like, what is your connection to the land, to the stories, to ceremonies, and so on. And every one of them said, the most common thing that it got out of all of them was they all said that they have to be authentic. They said, if we're going to portray Blackfoot or any other Indigenous people and tell their story on stage, then we have to be authentic. This is a Blackfoot song, a Blackfoot dance, a Blackfoot, motif, whatever, backdrop or whatever, or Anishinaabe or Ojibwe, whatever, Cree. So they are able to, that's one of the things they all agreed on, was the importance of being authentic. Because, for too long, how we were portrayed on stage and in the movies or whatever, it wasn't authentic, wasn't real.
Well, that sounds like really important research. Can't wait to dig in.
Yeah.
Thank you for walking us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Hi, hi.